Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and today I'm excited to say that DICE is currently in the process of creating a new competitive game mode into Battlefield 4 called Conquest Double Assault. If you're not aware right now on the CTE version of this game, they are experimenting with a matchmaking system for competitive casual play. I know that sounds a little odd, competitive casual, but they want to give players the opportunity to have an 8v8 style of action, but in a ranking system where you'll have ladders that you can rise through, you can be paired with people that are around the same skill level, and you can have that competitive action, but in a smaller setting. Not the crazy 32 versus 32 that the Battlefield franchise is known for, but bringing it down to more of an individual level to have that high octane action. Personally, I love the fact that DICE is finally doing this for Battlefield 4 because I want pretty much all competitive shooters to actually have a ranking system. I want to be paired with people that are around the same skill level. You join an 8v8 server right now in Battlefield 4, more often than not, it's not going to be full, it's going to be uneven teams, and the people that you're playing against are not going to be around the same skill level. You might have someone who just recently bought Battlefield 4, they're completely new to the series, they might be on the other team, and then you over here is a player who has a kill-death ratio of a solid 3. I mean, that's not going to be a fun round. You are going to mop the floor with their blood. It's going to be atrocious. It's not going to be a fun match. As soon as you get a ranking system in there, sure, it's not going to be flawless, it's not going to be bulletproof, but it's going to be a hell of a lot better than just randomly picking people that join up on this server. So I cannot wait to see where this leads. Personally, I know that I'm going to be spending a lot of time in this matchmaking system, grinding out through the ladder, as long as DICE does a good job of implementing it. With regard to the new game mode, though, Conquest Double Assault, I know that sounds pretty cool. It sounds like a cool variation of what we have right now. It is essentially just Conquest, but with 3 flags and, of course, a smaller player count. The interesting thing about it, though, is DICE is trying to decide on if there should be a tank on both sides. Adding in a tank for an 8 versus 8 or whatever the player count they decide on is a tricky business. If you go against an amazing tank operator on a 64-player server, it can already be difficult to kill him. I mean, I've gone against a tank driver who has gone 50-0. It's incredible. It doesn't happen very often, but there are tank drivers out there that just dominate the competition. And on a 32 versus 32 round, you have a bunch of teammates that can help you out. I mean, if everyone has a basic understanding of what's going on and you're getting dominated by a tank, if everyone switches on over to the engineer class, fires a couple of rockets at it, there's nothing that tank driver can do. There's also a lot more vehicles in the mix that they have to take care of. There can be jets up above that are trying to take out the tank as well, and a tank driver, while they can still have these amazing runs, it's much more difficult on a 32 versus 32. You might be thinking to yourself, why the hell are you making this point, Matt? Like, what are you getting at? Well, as soon as you lower the player count, let's say, for example, the new game mode is 8 versus 8, well, if you lose your tank and the enemy team is successful in keeping theirs and can repair it to full, they are going to have a huge advantage in their favor. Especially if it's an amazing tank driver, the entire round is going to revolve around you simply trying to take care of that one asset that they have. Everyone is going to need to switch on over to the engineer class. You're all going to need to fire RPGs at this one vehicle, because if you don't, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to hold on to these objectives. And while I can see the appeal of this, I like the dynamic of having a vehicle in a competitive game mode like it. The downside is if that one tank driver is amazing and your team does not have an amazing tank driver, because you're being paired up with, 7 random players, it could be a nightmare to take out that vehicle, and all hope could be lost simply because you just have no means of taking out that one player. That one player would have just an incredible amount of power over your entire team. And so I guess my question is, do we want to have a vehicle on a competitive game mode? What I like about it is that it would actually increase the diversity of the classes that you would see on one of these servers. If you take away the tank, everyone is going to run as the assault class. There would be no reason to run as the other kits. I mean, maybe every once in a while you would see a recon here and there. Maybe someone would play as the engineer to blow up one of the walls. But because the assault class has the med bag, they have the M320, which can basically do the same thing destructive-wise against some of these buildings, and they can revive their teammates, there's really no incentive for you to switch on over to the other kits, because the assault class and those weapons far exceed all of the other kits, at least when it comes to infantry-based gameplay. You add in a vehicle, though, all of a sudden it opens up a lot of other options for the other classes. Recon and support have C4. The engineer, of course, is going to be able to repair that vehicle. They have the RPGs to take it out as well, and it opens up way more dynamics that we wouldn't have if there wasn't that vehicle in the game. The downside, which I've already talked about, is that, well, the entire round could revolve around everyone repairing or trying to take out the vehicle with the RPG. If it's anything like it was back in Battlefield 3, because I did watch some fun competitive matches back then, there were 2 or 3 people that were in charge of repairing the tank. Like, they were the repair bitches. That was their job pretty much the entire round. I mean, every so often, maybe if an enemy was able to sneak on by and the tank driver didn't notice them, they would need to switch on over to their primary weapon and try to take them out before they got the C4 on the vehicle. But more often than not, they just sat behind, they sat behind their tank and repaired it as both tanks just shelled each other back and forth. And so I guess the system that I'm leaning more towards is just to mix it up. Maybe have a few maps that do have some vehicles while the others are focused on infantry-based gameplay. That way we get the best of both worlds. DICE can see where a lot of the player base is gravitating towards, and then they can base their future decisions off of that data. But I'd like to know what you guys think. Do you like the idea of having an 8v8 competitive scene with vehicles, or do you think that they should go down to the route of pretty much all of the other competitive shooters out there where everyone is using pretty much all the same weapons and gadgets? Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. The last thing that I wanted to mention before I take off is that DICE is currently investigating if they should add in night maps into Battlefield 4. They want to implement it properly. They don't want to feel like it was tacked on, because clearly the Halloween special where they dimmed the lights on Pearl Market was a huge success. A lot of Battlefielders made it abundantly clear that this is something that they enjoyed and would love to see if it was properly implemented into Battlefield 4. I'm intrigued to learn how they approach it, because while I enjoyed playing on that server, it was clear that it was tacked on. I mean, it was exactly tacked on. Pearl Market is meant to be a day map. They essentially just dimmed the lights, and if they wanted to add it in properly, they would need to do some work on the lighting effects. A few of you may have noticed that I went back and played the night DLC for Insurgency. They did a phenomenal job with that expansion pack, or with that content, because it feels like that time of day. It feels like midnight, and it changes up the way that you have to approach combat. It was a huge breath of fresh air. And so if DICE was able to capture that type of feel into Battlefield, I realize that Insurgency is Insurgency and Battlefield is Battlefield, but if they're able to make it look like what they did in Insurgency, I would be completely content with that. I want to know, I want to learn more. Hopefully they are serious about this investigation. They might just be, you know, stringing us along, pulling our leg, but I really do hope that this is something that is in the pipeline. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's video. I just wanted to keep you in the loop as to what is going on the CTE server. Personally, I cannot wait for the competitive matchmaking system to go live. I think that it is going to be a hell of a lot of fun, as long as DICE is able to add in a matchmaking system that is robust and pairs people with appropriate skill level. I think it's possible, but I cannot wait for this to finally be added into the game. But yeah, until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.